What's up, guys? Clavette's Corner is back. We're talking something like this with my good buddy BOOGIETRAXX out of Austin, Texas. We're going to do all melody this week. We're going to cover bass lines, keys, synths. And the really fun part about this record is that me and Boogie recreated a sample. The sample is the dramatics. What you see is what you get. We completely recreated it. And that's going to be something I show you in this too. I've been doing that with a lot of records. It's a lot of fun trying to create a sound of an era like that and then kind of remixing yourself, if you will. So if you're new here, this is Clavette's Corner. I open up my projects. I show them. I show the records that I put out from the production standpoint. Please consider subscribing. If you're watching on YouTube, please consider sharing this IGTV if you're on Instagram, and follow along. Would love to hear from you. If you feel like you want to hear some more from certain aspects I didn't get to, shout me out in the comments. Tell me what you want to hear, and I'll try and make some shorter form content to get to you guys. So super appreciate everyone watching. Let's jump into Ableton and take a look. All right, welcome back. We're in Ableton once again. We're going to go through kind of all of the melody, and we're going to break in the middle of this because I'm going to show you how we recreated this sample. This record was all made around the Dramatics record. What you see is what you get. I will play my sample version of it because I don't want to get flagged for this. So that is the sample, and we used a guitarist. Boogie played the bass line on it, and then I contacted a horns player to recreate that, and I'll show you that project shortly. The other stuff in here is a bass line that Boogie replayed. It's really just the same bass line as the sample. This is the only EQ I really needed to do on that. He did some processing on it that I thought sounded great. And I'm going to actually cut to him right now, and he's going to tell you how that was done.
Hey y'all, what's going on? It's your boy BOOGIETRAXX here. I'm going to show you how I made the bass line for me and Clavette's new track, Somebody. Step 1, we're going to start with tracking. Let's give this thing some more body.
All right, we're back. So thanks, Boogie, for showing us how you did that. Sounds killer. The other things that kind of come in are this Rhodes. Just kind of playing roots, really. It's just kind of playing the chord, fifths almost. And it is a Mark 1, Scarby Mark 1 from the Scarby Contact instrument line. I've got RC20 doing a little bit of bit reduction on it and a little bit of EQ. You'll probably hear a little bit of what happens when I take this off. So just kind of shaves off the top end a little bit. Then the last thing I want to show you is the marimba. There's another synth that I recorded from. That is from my Pro 1, my Behringer Pro 1. And I've got a phaser on it. Without that, it's not so interesting, right? So you put that on. and doing my classic trick where I drive the input really hard and then turn down the output, and it just gets some really good tones. It's kind of a similar effect to how phasers were used anyways. Typically, you ran an amp head into the phaser, and so that amp was creating, you know, especially on like a Fender Rhodes, you would send that Fender through that amp. It would create all of this harmonic distortion and just rich harmonic content, which with the phaser could really create some great textures and tones. After that, just shaving a ton off. This just too bright, just way too bright. So I just shaved a bunch of that off. I've got RC20 on here, adding a little bit of grit. And then I've just got Pan Man from Sound Toys, just kind of moving it back and forth. What else do we got? There's just a reverse synth, I think, that I use a couple times. Which is just, if you wondered how that was made, just look it up on YouTube. I'm not going to show you. Just reverse synths, reverse anything. So I use that a couple times to kind of create some tension. There's a string machine. Which is the Selena from the Arturia line. You know, the original string machine, really. All right, and now I'm gonna get to the xylophone. This was something I never thought I would do in this record. I didn't think a xylophone would work, but it works really nicely, and it kind of adds this cool live element to the entire track. So if you're wondering which element that is, it's this. So it's kind of glitching out a little bit, but it's the Sonic Couture Grand Marimba. I've had this instrument forever. I've used it in a bunch of different projects I've done for TV and film. It sounds so good to me, but I've never used it in a record, you know, on a dance record. So I just kind of was jamming and kind of fixed anything that was out of time, but I found some kind of some patterns and shapes that I wanted to kind of implement into the track, and used RC20 to kind of drive the marimba a little more. So you'll hear this. Kind of add some top end sheen. And then I think this is just controlling. Maybe a little too much compression now that I'm listening back, but it sounds okay. It sounds all right. And then I just kind of took away some of the width. It was just a little too wide. I wanted it a little bit down the center. Now I'm going to jump into the project where I recreated this sample and kind of show you what I did to make that sample work the way it did. Okay, so this is the sample that I recreated. And to do that, I really just used a handful of different organic sounding instruments. So here's the whole sample. Which to me sounds really, really, really close. So this was a combination of people helping us get here. There's the guitar that was recorded by a friend of Boogie's. Boogie did the bass line, and I hired a horns player to redo all of the horn lines. So if we start with the drums, the kick and snare was done in Contact using the Abbey Road 60s drummer, and I kind of messed around with the settings until I got something close. There's the kit. There's not too much I think, yeah, there wasn't really much I did. I did a lot of the processing in the instrument itself. This shaker I recorded myself. So you can kind of hear a lot of that dragging and moving and pushing and dragging and pushing. Here's the other one. And that is just a sample, and I kind of made it fit with the other shaker. And then the other kind of main part I was hearing in the sample is this clave. So really had to get that reverb right. And I used Rverb for that, which is a great sounding reverb from Waves. And all together, the bass was recorded by Boogie, and that sounds like this. And that is running through Ampeg. V4B, the Brainworks emulation of the Ampeg bass amp. It's running through a Fairchild. And this is just kind of giving it a little more vintage tone and controlling some of the dynamics, even though you can kind of tell it's pretty even already. And then I am boosting around 500 and dipping around 200. Just to kind of give it that presence. Then the beautiful horns. These were recorded just wonderfully. And I'll give you a little taste of what they sound like. So they're just kind of stacked. There wasn't too much I had to do. I just kind of kept them free. Didn't want to like tighten them up anymore and keep it really loose. There's a few things going on to control the dynamics and control some of the resonant kind of frequencies. But overall, on top I've got an Ampex ATR 102 tape machine, kind of giving it some vintage tones. I've got the Vertigo VSC2 controlling some of the dynamics. Just because these are really punchy. So it's really controlling them. I've got the Brainworks SSL 4000 emulation. Really boosting the top end. Taking out a little bit around 2K. Adding about 3 dB around 440, and that's about it. I don't think there's any compression or anything going on in here. And then I am clipping them just because they're really pokey. And then soothe. And this I think is just really controlling that mid-range. Really high setting, but low mix. I was wondering why I kept seeing this move, and that's mostly because the sensitivity is so high. And then we've got the violins, that do this little line here. So I've got I think this is a viola. So it's it's a violin and a viola stacked on top of each other. Very simple line. There's a higher violin that comes in on the second part of that. Again, stacked violins, one from Cinematic Strings, one from the Session Strings Pro from Native Instruments, just to give it kind of that. I find that you really need to layer strings to get them to sound convincing. And then some cellos that are doing the same thing. It's a stacked layer of Cinematic Strings, a cello, and a low viola. And there's not too much going on them. It's really just an Ampex tape machine again, giving it more of that vintage tone and a little bit of soothe. And then finally, we've got the guitar. And this is running just a little bit of compression. So it's just really catching a lot of those peaks. There's a Pultec in here, adding a bunch of top end sheen. Just to get it to pop through a little bit, and then a little bit of soothe. Because I just noticed in the original recording, it was just a very smooth recording. So I really wanted the sample needed to be really smooth so that it fit in the track. So I didn't have to do too much additional processing. On the entire mix, I've got RC20 doing a vinyl 3 setting, and I think I tweaked these a little bit just to give it that vinyl crackle, that wobble that you hear in a lot of old records. The BX Townhouse, which is kind of similar to the SSL compressor. I don't think they would have been using a bus compressor. Because this song came out in the early 60s, I want to say. So I don't think the SSL compressor was in there. A little bit of minor EQ, dipping out some low end 50, it looks like, and a little bit around 500. Black box, giving it a little bit of a little more control in that mid range. And then yeah, I was just watching this. But overall, I think it got really, really close. I'm really happy with how this sample turned out. Hey guys, so thanks for watching this week on Clavette's Corner. I'm going to ask one more time here at the end of the video. If you're new and you aren't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment. If you're watching on Instagram, please consider the same, but maybe try sharing it to your Instagram stories. Send it to a friend who may get something out of this. I can't tell you enough how much those comments mean. And if there's something I didn't cover that you want to hear, shout me out in the comments and let me know, and I'll make some shorter form content for you guys. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.